Ahoy, friends. It's me, Dave Landau. After a long night on stage, I like to kick back with a captain's hat and a fine cigar and watch the Dennis and Andy show. These guys are huge nerds, but they're the kind that you actually want to hang out with. Enjoy them. I do.
Well, Heidi ho, hello everybody. It is Wednesday, and you know what that means. You get to see these handsome gentlemen coming to you live for the Dennis and Andy show. And it's going to be a fun one. Randy Howell, hello. Randy is already kicking butt, posting links. I mean, the dude's just going crazy. Thank you so much, Randy. There's the link for the Kor-Drath Kickstarter. Randy's on the ball. Thank you so much. You like Indiegogo? We got you covered. There it is on Indiegogo. Go check it out. Of course, he's helping out our guest. We'll introduce in a second. Christian Bladt is our guest. He's got the Blattcast. There's the link for his channel, so go hit a subscription over there. All these links are also in the description below, so you don't have to worry if they go by. Marcus, hello. How are you?
Marcus, are you on the road today?
What's he saying? I know Aaron's streaming.
They do the graybeards. They've infringed upon our timing. Makes me sad.
Him and the gay beards, I tell you. That's what you said, right?
Sure.
Okay. John, hello to you. Amish Ninja's in the house as well.
And he's apparently waiting out a snowstorm at work. So what better things to do? Listen to Dennis and Andy with a great guest as we get to talk some Quantumania today.
That's right. And Marcus is driving. That's right. Our guest is a Mr. Christian Bladt. He does have his show where he talks comics and stuff. He'll tell you all about it. We are going to be talking about Antman, the Wasp, Quantumania. Lots of spoilers. We're not holding back.
If you want to see our spoiler-free review, then you're going to want to go on to the DNA show and pull it up because we did a spoiler-free. We were really nice. We had some revelations there, but we've waited until this show to do it. So we are going to spoil everything.
That's right. And Christian has seen the movie too. And without further ado, hello.
Hey, everybody. Great to see you again, Dennis and Andy. And hello, everyone in the chat. Thanks for whomever already posted a link to the Blattcast. BLADTCAST, by the way. Always important to spell it out.
That's right. Well, like I said, I've got the link pinned down below as well, so they can find it. So we have all seen the latest Marvel movie, which I guess is... I didn't realize this. I mean, did they actually announce this or are people just making this up? This is supposed to be the kickoff for Phase 5?
Kevin Feige announced it.
Oh, did he?
He made a comment.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I guess that this is officially the kickoff for Phase 5. You had some stuff that was like, Phase 4 kind of ended, with Love and Thunder. And then the Guardians Christmas special was kind of like, like an afterthought. It's like not really part of this next phase. I guess that's where we are. It's hard to really draw a line between them,
because like Black Panther as well. That was November, so.
Oh yeah, yeah. You know what? Maybe it was Black Panther was the end. I don't know. It's
I have no idea.
Well, I did see one really good review that popped out. When this movie was coming out and. All the reviewers got to go in and see it. And then it said, the best Marvel movie, ... And I was like, really? What's the rest of the dots? And then it comes up, ... Since Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. And I'm like, oh. So it's the best movie since the last movie you just put out.
Yeah. But I to me, it's the best Marvel movie probably since No Way Home. So, you know, it's like it was better than any of the movies last year, I thought. I didn't even dislike any of them outright. But for me, this was people, there's a lot of reasons to knock Thor Love and Thunder. But in Thor Love and Thunder, many times he says it's a classic Thor adventure. And I'm like, exactly. That's what that movie was. I don't know what anybody wanted that from a fourth Thor movie. I don't know what anybody wanted from a third Ant-Man movie that was more than this. There's minor things. There's definitely story things you can talk about. I would have liked to have seen the supporting cast, you know, his buddies who have the security company. It wouldn't have really made sense, but I do like those characters. You know, they mentioned Judy Greer. We don't have her. Again, it's okay. But I was just like, yeah, this is I had fun with it because they got right into the quantum realm. You know,
that's
like, get to it, you know?
That I was going to say, so we'll start off, you know, like I said, this will be spoiler filled, but yeah, that was one of the nice things about it is there was really no messing around, man. They got to the quantum realm like that. You know, it was like, okay, we filmed enough inside the house. Let's just get this going onto the green screen for the rest of the movie, or however they did it. And I like that. I thought that was good. What did you think of them recasting Cassie?
We talked, so I've done a couple of episodes on my YouTube channel where we talked about this, and that seems to be there is actually a regular poster in the chat was actually kind of upset about it because think about what a great opportunity it was for the actress who was in Endgame. I feel like there was nothing for her to do in Endgame that is like what was required for this. And I don't know. I sometimes think that, you know, studio people know better than I do. They probably felt like this actress, Catherine Newton, is better for action sequences. And clearly, we're going to see a lot more of her. I think we're going to see more of her than we do of any of the other leads in this movie, you know, because, you know, she's going to fit in well, and we can talk about the future, but, you know, fit in well with Yelena, Kate Bishop, and, you know, like that generation. I feel like we're going to see plenty of her. And I don't know. I guess Catherine Newton's this actress's name. I guess she had some degree of recognition. I just think that they thought at the end of the day she was better. And I don't know that the other actress would have been just as good. So I was like, this is fine. I knew it was a different actress.
Yeah.
But
well, I mean, look at Iron Man. You know, after the first Iron Man, they recast Rhodey. I think so the original actress, I didn't recognize. It was just an actress. You know what I mean? It was good because then you don't think, oh, that's this famous person playing this role. So I like it when you don't recognize him. But I'm kind of with you. A part of me wonders if this other actress just has more of a resume. I mean, I know her from Lost in Space and stuff, you know, the Netflix.
I was going to say, if anything, it was because you kind of mentioned it. She's more physical. Right. And I've got a feeling with all the young females that they're going to be casting throughout the new phases and the direction that they're really pushing this, she probably has that presence. And they were like, you know what? They might not even notice. So I actually liked both. I actually liked all three actresses that played, you know.
The little girl actress, yeah.
Yes.
And by the way, you brought up a comment from Cami Egan in the chat. Cami Egan is one of the regulars on my shows. And Dennis, you would like her. She's a good Chicago gal. So.
Oh, good.
Yeah, but does that mean she likes the Bears?
Right. Well, I think you did give the shout out for the Monsters of the Midway artwork that you did.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
So yeah. See, look, I even bring my own chatters with me.
That's beautiful.
When I come.
That's beautiful.
I think most of ours right now are on Aaron's channel.
Yeah, they bounce back. They bounce back and forth.
They'll come back.
Yeah. So anyhow, with Cassie, yeah, I mean, I liked her as an actress. I thought she did a really good job. She when she was on screen, she just had a nice presence about her on screen. You know, I will say, and Dennis and I joked about this. So, you know, Michelle Pfeiffer, you know, for being in her 60s, just fantastic.
Yeah.
Just, you know, gray hair and everything just works. Now, Oh my God, who played Wasp?
Well,
I'm so bad with names.
Evangeline Lilly.
Lilly.
But let me just pull on the thread with Michelle Pfeiffer for a moment, because one, still stunning, but I made this point on my show, but I think it's worth noting that in the same week that Antman starts off, where Michelle Pfeiffer is in space and kicking ass, Star Trek Picard season 3 starts off with Gates McFadden with a laser rifle kicking ass. And it's like, look, women of a certain age can certainly kick ass if you give them the material. So keep that in mind. And I don't know, I was just excited to see, like, yeah, boy, there's no reason that Michelle Pfeiffer can't activate the Wasp suit and still try and stop a bad guy. So I was excited.
I mean, honestly, Michael Douglas could do the same.
Yeah.
But
well, he can't. He's not supposed to shrink anymore, right? He's not supposed to use the suit anymore because it'll kill him, I guess. But your point about Evangeline Lilly, she apparently, when they wanted her for this role, they hired her with a full head of hair, and then when she showed up on set with that haircut, they're like, you know what, we'll just put you in a couple of small scenes, and we'll keep you out of it for the most part.
I was going to say, with that haircut, I was like, what are you? Who told you to do that?
I did not like her hair in the last movie. You know how it just came down. I was like, not a good look. I mean, she's great with long hair, and I guess it's not all about the hair, but man, that just did not do her any justice.
See, that's weird, though, that the way you mentioned it, you said when she showed up with her haircut like that. And I would think for a movie of any sort, because they know that they're going to be filming it, and they could be like, okay, look, do not, whatever hair she had, say 4 months out, 5 months out, because they know production schedule, they'd be like, okay, don't touch it. Just let it go. We'll style it when you come in.
Yeah, and then there's times where, if you have to have your hair a certain way for a different project, and they're going to put you in a wig. Karen Gillan was in deep on Nebula, where she literally had her head shaved, and then she did a cameo on Doctor Who. So they're like, well, I guess we're giving you a wig because we're not going to have your character be bald just because you're in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Well, that was my thing with Evangeline Lilly. I said one word: wig.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really wish they would have. My bunch of my nerd friends and we actually grilled out this weekend, and we watched Picard, and I was very skeptical just because I did not enjoy the first 2 seasons of it. There was a lot that I was not fond of. This one blew my socks off, and Gates McFadden out of the gates. Instead of the old looked like the phaser rifle, but she's pumping it like a shotgun to boost the power. She just kicked butt. And I was like, wow. I mean, we've actually never seen that from her. I thought she did a good job.
Yeah, no, I thought it was great. And I don't want to go off on this tangent, but for me, Picard season 1 was Space 1999 bad, and then Picard season 2 was Galactica 1980 bad in all the worst ways. So it's off to a good start. But anyway, I think that I felt like with both Hope and Hank, there was more for them to do. Both of them had important moments in the movie, but they kind of got lost in, this is a lot of Cassie in this movie, a decent amount of Janet. And some people were saying that, they kind of like stole the movie away from Scott Lang. I felt like he was in it plenty, but there seemed to be sort of secondary spotlights on those 2 actresses over Michael Douglas and Evangeline Lilly.
Yeah, Michael Douglas definitely felt like he had a back seat in it, which, I mean, it's not.
I was going to say,
it's not about him.
In my mind, he really had a completely backup part. I mean, he had very little to do other than to be an occasional comment in back, or she was doing this. It was there to prop up the other. I really just wanted a little more from his character, and it wasn't there. And maybe it was timing. They wanted to keep it streamlined. I don't know. I was a little disappointed in that. Same thing with Bill Murray's. Again, another one. I wanted to see what they wanted to do with him. I wanted him to be more than just the guy she had sex with.
Yeah, I think that I had a friend who really wanted Bill Murray to have come back, but I was like, well, he got eaten by a giant squid, so I don't think that they were going to give him an arc. And I feel like Bill Murray showing up in this movie was, what he had like 2 days. He gave them 2 days on set or whatever. maybe
Right.
3. It was like, this is what you get. So this is how much you have. And, I think for somebody like Bill Murray, you make the concessions of, however many days he wants to be here, we'll come up with a way to make that part work. I would have liked to have seen more of him just because he's Bill Murray,
Yeah, same here.
Exactly.
I wanted more of him in Ghostbusters Afterlife because he's Bill Murray,
And I don't think they oversold him. I mean, they just said, Bill Murray's in it. You just didn't know what to expect. So
it felt like he showed up on set one day and he's, guys, I want to be in the movie. I'm here today and tomorrow. Make something for me. And they did.
Right. Yeah. On Wednesday night, he's like, look, I'll be in town through the weekend. So whatever you can get done over the next couple days, put me in your movie. Yeah, exactly.
Now, what did you think about, because we can just jump around with it.
Sure.
What did you think about MODOK?
So here's my thing about MODOK, and I was thinking about this, and I think that there's been a decision for the tone for MODOK, which if you look at the Hulu series, which a friend of a friend was the showrunner of that, his name's Jordan Bloom. He and Patton Oswalt not only, created that show, but they also did a great series for Dark Horse called Minor Threats, which is basically like the movie The Warriors, but it's supervillains. And it was a mini series, but I think they're going to do more of it anyway. So shout out to them. They had, I thought, a really funny take on MODOK, who is really a ridiculous character. And I think it's okay, but clearly that's their thought now. Well, that's what MODOK is.
Right.
And I didn't mind that he was Darren from the first movie. I thought it was sort of a funny way. I thought he was used in a good comedic way, but and I wasn't as upset as some people. I thought that like the CGI stretched face could have looked a little bit better, but
yeah, that was weird.
Yeah, but I don't know. I mean, I think MODOK, when I started reading comics in the early to mid 80s, there wasn't a lot of MODOK at that point. I think they'd kind of moved away from him. And whenever I would see him, I'm like this like weird giant head guy. So I'm not as upset about this. I made the comparison that people who are somehow MODOK purists and really upset about them, are they also the people who felt like James Gunn did a disservice to Polka Dot Man in the Suicide Squad? I mean, there are characters where it's like, yeah, they weren't meant to be a joke, but when you kind of look at them, they sort of are,
Yeah, I guess with me, it's not like I'm definitely not on the side of I'm such a huge MODOK fan. That's the only reason I want to see this movie. How could they? And I never saw the Patton Oswalt animated one.
What I'll say about it is it's very funny, but there's some great cameos of just like characters that you wouldn't have expected. Like Armadillo shows up a few times. If you remember him from like the Mark Grunwald 80s era Captain America. Yeah. So it's like characters you never thought you would see. They kind of work in as like a supporting cast. But anyway.
I guess I will say I was expecting, like, I didn't mind him being Darren. I was fine with that. Sure. I even loved like the flashback of when he shrunk down and he got, his head was huge and his body shrunk small. I thought that was fine. And
yeah.
And I guess maybe if he was just, I don't know, just more of a badass and not as much as like the comedy part of it, I would have enjoyed it better. And even with the redemption in the end, when he turned around and did the right thing and then dies. But then again, it's like, boom, now MODOK's gone.
Right. Although now that we're dealing with multiverses and timelines, there can always be another MODOK. But but I agree with you. I did understand people who felt like, well, now they've wasted MODOK because he died. But I don't know. There are many, mechanisms only designed for killing. So
he did have some comedic moments, the tiny feet, and the legs, and that reminded me of Deadpool. Yeah. And then when he lifts his hand up there with his tiny arm and rubs it. But then my reaction in the movie theater was, because Cassie's like, Darren? And I was like, well, you didn't know Darren. You knew him as the B-Man because he always had the suit on when she was the little girl in the first movie. So I was like, I was kind of upset about that. I'm like, to me, that's a leap of logic. But then I thought, well, she probably had all this time while growing up during the blip, and she probably said, I researched him so she would know what he looked like. But
sometimes you want to know who was that masked man who tried to kill me, you know?
Right. So I guess you kind of have to make the leap of logic, but that was really my first natural reaction was like, well, you didn't know.
Right.
Yeah. I thought that the reactions by both Hank and Hope I thought were funnier. Like, oh my God, Darren. And then, he did get the good line of, oh, you changed your hair, So it's like we'd all been thinking about it the whole movie. So at least somebody said something,
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. What about, so then, now, like I said, we're jumping around. Another thing that really popped out to me was, in the end, the battle with Kang, and we'll just call them the renegades that are coming to attack, and he's literally blasting them into oblivion with one blast. They're just gone. But then when he's fighting, Scott and Janet and everybody else, he's like, no, I can't. I mean, was there a reason she couldn't kill them?
She got shot in the arms, like, oh, and I was like, well, you should have did one.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. I don't think I thought about it that way. The one thing that didn't bother me was when the ants descend on him, because there's just so many, and I think you can make the question of like, really, he got beaten by a bunch of ants. It's like, well, yeah, because he got beaten by millions of ants,
right.
But yeah, I think that look, it's like in Star Wars, stormtroopers are the worst shots in the galaxy, except for every once in a while when they need to make a shot, then they somehow figure out a way to do it.
That's true. That's true.
But yeah.
Now what's the guy's name that played Kang?
Jonathan Majors.
Jonathan Majors.
He was great.
He was just, once again, the first thing we saw him in last year was
Devotion,
where he was the pilot from Korea to Korean. He was fantastic in that.
And for an okay film, again, he kind of stole all the oxygen out. Yeah. So he stole the movie, and in my view, he did the same thing with this. He was far above and beyond everybody else acting wise in this movie, with the full range of emotions and the way he delivers his lines. Sometimes he's caring, sometimes he seems vulnerable when he's talking to Janet. And then when he goes full on badass, he is a full on badass.
Yeah, I think in terms of the performance, I think your truly great actors rise above the material. And I don't think that this is a bad film or the bad script, in any way. But the example I always use on my show is, it goes back to Star Wars. Most things do. The Star Wars holiday special is 2 of the worst hours of footage ever assembled. However, Harrison Ford is amazing. You were convinced he's Han Solo in that terrible movie. Everyone else is awful. Like Carrie Fisher sings. Mark Hamill been in his accident, so he's got all this pancake makeup on. Everything is terrible except you're like, yeah, but he's still Han Solo. And so I think Jonathan Majors is somebody that's going to bring that level of performance, no matter what's going on around him, interacting with MODOK. And I think that when he needed to, he really underplayed the character. There is a way to have the reveal, when she says, "Who are you?" There are certain directors who have made comic book movies where he would have gone into a whole "I am Kang" and he, would have like made lightning rain down or something. And instead he just calmly says, "I'm who I need to be." And I'm like, oh, that's such a better way than where I thought this was going to go. And I think that he has that rage-filled moment that you're talking about, Andy, where he's just like, everything's going wrong. I'm gonna go, kill some people for a little bit. But for the most part, he kind of underplays it, and he just has those moments. So I think it's kind of like a really measured performance for this character, and he plays him so different as he did on Loki, as He Who Remains, who in the MCU is an iteration of the same character, and so. To me, it's exciting to think about like how many Kangs, how many Immortuses, how many Ramatuts, how many Iron Lads, how many everythings he's going to play. And they're all going to probably be fairly different,
Well, just in the end with, the after credit scene and all that, he can just jump into these different roles and just make them so distinguishable from each other. Just, you know, I mean, the course of a year, it's Devotion, it's this movie, and then it's Creed in a couple weeks, you know.
Yeah.
And we were watching when we saw Devotion. I want to say we saw a trailer for, you know, Antman, and I barely I recognized them, but I barely recognized them.
Right.
And then we saw the trailer for Creed before Devotion as well. And that one, I think I even asked Dennis, I go, is that the same guy? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, damn, that guy.
Well, I one of the things that I've mentioned as I've talked about this movie is the sort of hand-to-hand, the fisticuffs between Kang and Scott at the end of the movie, just the punching. Yeah. It made me realize, I'm like, wait a minute. His character in Creed 3 is probably a Kang as well. And then I started to think, I think every character he's ever played in every movie, including Devotion, they're all Kangs. Everyone he's ever played has been a Kang.
They could be.
Well, all those different Kangs and even the different styles, they physically made him look different. His accent was different. His emotion was different. And I immediately, I had leaned over to my wife then, and I was like, you know, this performance where he has to play all these identities, really, if it reaches the level, which I think it will, of like James McAvoy when in Split, you know, when he went and did that, I thought that was just a masterpiece in acting. And I've got a feeling he could pull that off.
Yeah, I think not everyone can pull it off, you know, and I think that you always have to be careful when you're casting an actor, especially when you're like casting him for a part in the first thing we knew that he was going to be in was Antman. And then later it turned out he was going to be in Loki. So you have to know that you're casting, even if the actor doesn't realize they're reading for, you know, thousands of variations on a character, you have that in your mind. And I feel pretty confident that they found someone who will, I think, just excel in this role. And, you know, the only disappointment will be whatever 7 movies from now or whatever it is when they finally do away with them. Like, oh yeah, but there were still hundreds of more Kangs he could have played.
I know.
Yes. Well, it's funny you mentioned the Star Wars Christmas special, and the first thing when you're talking about Harrison Ford, I thought B. Arthur was pretty much B. Arthur, and I saw Cammie. She made the comment in there. So good minds think alike, because that's exactly what my thought was.
You know, and anything that gives you a B. Arthur song right in the middle of the show, and you know, that script, by the way, came from the mind of Bruce Valanche, who I think was the only person who could bring us the Star Wars Christmas special.
Now, I never saw that before until this Christmas. My daughter made me watch it.
And emphasis on made you watch it?
Yeah. She's like, I want you to watch it. And I'm like, I've heard it so bad. She goes, it is, but that's why you have to watch it. I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to sit through something that's bad, knowing it's bad. It's different when it first came out. You don't know. But
yeah, you were just excited that there was more Star Wars content. And the animated sequence with Boba Fett is like the thing you can pull away and like, oh, it's kind of fun because it has the real cast and it introduced Boba Fett. I'm sorry, Dennis, what were you saying?
No, you're exactly right. I remember I was there when I watched it. I mean, I remember as a kid, and we're like, my parents are like, we're not putting it. We only had one TV, you know, so we all had to share it. And we were like, my brother and I like, but Star Wars Christmas special. Yeah, we're not watching that. We're like, we want to watch it. We haven't seen anything Star Wars since we went to the theater. We want Star Wars. They finally relented and we got to watch it live. And as a kid, I was like, wow, that was really cool. As we get older, we realize, wow, the things we look at through childhood lenses, you know,
look, I think 1978 is something of like a nexus at the corner of bad culture, because it's also the year that brought us Kiss in the Phantom of the Park, which also, if you see it as a kid and you love Kiss, you're like, I don't care, Kiss is on TV. But then when you watch it and you go like, hey, wait a minute, is that a black guy with Ace Frehley's makeup on? And that, you know, because they used his stand-in because he was too messed up
Yep.
to actually be in some of the scenes. And like they dubbed Peter Chris's voice. It's like, I think it's the guy who's like Duke on G.I. Joe. It's like a very recognizable voice actor.
Really? Oh, wow.
Yeah. So anyway, you have these things that you think you love when you're a kid. And my opening into the world of superheroes was two things. Like I think a lot of people, Super Friends, and then Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends.
Mm-hmm.
And I contend that Spider-Man and Amazing Friends has held up better than Super Friends, but they're for kids in a time when you made kids shows that were really supposed to be kiddie. It wasn't until like a decade later when it was like, hey, what if we made Batman and X-Men shows? And I don't know, this is a crazy idea. What if they were actually good? What are you talking about? Making good animated, and the Superman show too, but anyway.
Yep. No, but that's true. That was some of the stuff I would try to justify. And, this is a tangent, but like Miss Marvel, right?
Sure.
On Disney Plus. I watched the whole thing. So my daughter loves watching the stuff, all the stuff. So I've watched everything. And I just would tell people, and I think I remember telling Dennis this, going, it just wasn't made for us. It really came across like a Nickelodeon show for kids.
It was the first time where something that is, part of the MCU, and I've done various Marvel related shows on various networks and things, and my co-host on that show, Z Anderson, who's now a co-host with Jim Norton on the Chip Chipperson show, she really liked Marvel. I mean, she hated Cloak and Dagger so much, because she's like, this is for kids and the music is so terrible. I'm like, both of those things are true, but I liked those characters. And I thought that they were reasonably well cast, but you do realize when you see it, and it's easier with animated shows like Devil Dinosaur is clearly for a younger audience. So you kind of understand it, but when it's live action, you don't right away think that. But I started to feel that with Ms. Marvel. I thought she was great casting as Kamala Khan, and I really liked her dad in the show. But I definitely felt like, okay, this is definitely guys who look like the three of us are probably not who Feige has
wasn't
in
their
mind.
target. No. I got done with that show, and my daughter at the time was last year, so she was 19. But she liked it. But my point is, it was only a few years ago she was still watching stuff on Disney and Nickelodeon and stuff. So I'm not that far removed from it either. So I just immediately was like, oh, that's what they're, kind of doing.
And that's what they did with She-Hulk. My wife and I, we sat down because I was a big She-Hulk fan.
She-Hulk I didn't get the kid thing. But
it was not. It wasn't geared towards us. My wife's like, "Oh my God, I really want to see this because you always talk about She-Hulk," and it just went in a wholly different direction than I ever thought it would take.
There were things about that show I liked, but I've told my wife a few times, I'm like, you would definitely enjoy it if you take actually Ms. Marvel too. I feel like those are shows. My wife's Chinese American and she's a TV writer, so I'm like, those are definitely shows that one I could see her writing on, but also I think just the awareness of like, here's some of the storytelling that you do, especially Ms. Marvel. I thought, but I think that what I appreciated about She-Hulk was that it was the, like what I'm talking about with MODOK. Let's not take She-Hulk too seriously because she's She-Hulk, and I
could appreciate that.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have as many complaints as Dennis did about it. I mean, I didn't love it.
Sure.
But I didn't have as many complaints. But we do line up on, they just didn't do Daredevil justice.
Yeah, and I think that that's probably more of the approach they want to take towards the new Daredevil series. You know what I mean? I think that show didn't dictate who Daredevil was. I think that's like, the Born Again show, whatever, the 18-episode show that apparently won't air this year. But whatever the higher ups, as it were, say, it's kind of like how in Hawkeye it was so awesome to get the Kingpin, but then he wasn't actually the same as the way he was in Daredevil, the Netflix show. So, it's like when you're doing these properties, this intellectual property, you don't really have a say on how they do it. So they might have wanted to do something different with Daredevil. And I just love Charlie Cox so much that the fact that they didn't cast another actor, I let's just say I graded on a really big curve because I was so happy to see him.
I did too. That was for all the Netflix ones that came out. He was the standout. That was for me the standout show. Both seasons, especially the season with the Punisher, it was fantastic.
I mean that season with the Punisher, that season 2 of Daredevil on Netflix. Yeah. There's a scene with Matt and Frank. They're in a cemetery. They're like waiting something out and just like talking to each other. I'm like, this is one of the best scenes I've seen in television, not superhero television, not comic book. No, they're just like, it's great. And I hope we get more Punisher. I know he's not a very Disney character, but neither is Deadpool. So I was
going to say neither is Deadpool, and they're making that R-rated. So
right.
Well, exactly. I think that's the thing Disney needs to just come to grips with is, we can't kid friendly all these freaking characters,
Yeah, no, and I think that to steer it back to Ant-Man, he can be a little bit more kid friendly because it's sillier. And I mean the first 2 movies he had like the young daughter, so you were able to kind of have very accessible stories for kids. That I mean my son's 7, so he hasn't seen any of these movies yet. It's baby steps. I got him to see the 3 original Star Wars last year, so I'm like, good. If we never watch another Star Wars again, we're fine because we saw the best ones. But but I think that you can't really watch them all in order. I feel like Ant-Man is something that both him and my daughter's 5. I feel like those are and my daughter knows these characters because she watches talk about kid friendly on Disney Channel. There's a show called Spidey and His Amazing Friends, not Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. It's definitely for preschoolers, but it has Black Cat, it has Ant-Man, it has Wasp, it has Black Panther. It has all these characters. So it's like she's already got this familiarity that going in at 5 long before I'd even think of taking her to one of these movies. So I think they know which characters are the best. I'm pretty sure that we're not going to see Wolverine on Spidey and His Amazing Friends.
No, probably not.
Yeah,
probably not. What is John saying? John says Kevin Feige isn't the creative force behind MCU. He's just like Bob Iger, merely a figurehead for Disney. The Russos, Jon Favreau, Joss Whedon were the real creative personalities behind Marvel.
I mean, I think John can have a point about Phase 1. You're right. It was shaped especially by Favreau, having done the initial Iron Man. But I think what you've gotten, in the decade since, it's because, Feige was going to quit if they didn't take Ike Perlmutter out of the Marvel Studios aspect of it. And that was how strongly they felt about his vision that they did. And, he's not involved in it anymore. And they gave him Marvel TV and it's all under one umbrella. So I think what we've gotten the last couple phases, but especially what's coming, I think it really is what Feige sees as a vision. And, I saw him speak before, I don't know, it was at the New York Film Academy, oddly enough, here in LA. And just like listening to the way that like he approached all of it, I was just like, I feel like this is a guy you want in charge of that. Just like you want Jon Favreau doing The Mandalorian, like you want people who understand the products. Why I think James Gunn running DC is a great choice because he understands these characters. He has excitement for these characters and he's going to bring you stuff that maybe you don't expect. Like I couldn't believe how good Peacemaker was. I had no expectations. For that.
Yeah, no, Peacemaker was really just amazing. And honestly, and Cena was great, but man, Vigilante was just awesome.
Awesome. I know. I want the Vigilante spin-off miniseries.
Exactly.
Yeah. And Eagly. I mean, Eagly literally stole the show every intro.
Yeah. Yeah. But so I don't know. I mean, I think that tonally they knew what they were giving us with this third Ant-Man movie.
Oh, I think so. Yeah.
I think that, you're getting some critical backlash from actual critics and then, from the wannabe critics on Twitter, because it's like, well, you shouldn't compare Ant-Man 3 to Endgame or even Spider-Man No Way Home. Don't compare it to Logan or a Christopher Nolan Batman movie. These aren't those movies. This is like, you know, this is like, oh, cool. There's an Ant-Man graphic novel that's out where he goes into the quantum realm. I want to read that. You know, it's you got to think of them more as like those one shots, you know, and
Yeah,
it's
well, and
part
I
of a
think
bigger
that's what
story.
it is. I think they're good at doing that, and then because during the movie, you know, there's an after credit scene, and I'm just sitting there thinking, what's it going to be to help tie into whatever's coming next?
Sure.
You know, so of course, you know, the very final one was with Loki, so they're launch, you know, to help you get ready for season 2 of that. And then, you know, just the other one with all the Kangs and stuff. I think that was also just for people that don't know anything about Kang to go, oh, he's not dead.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
You know, oh, don't worry, he's not dead.
Yeah, exactly. It's funny because those mid-credit and end-credit scenes are kind of the only things associated with the movie that I felt like were spoilers. Like, I had friends who I'm like, oh, I hope they don't find out that Loki is in the end credit scene, because I knew a few people that just love the character so much that like, oh my God, he was in, you know, even though that's a TV show, that was, you know, the end credit scene. And, you know, to see Jonathan Majors again as Victor Timely, you know, the what that's Kang hiding out in what the vaudeville era, I think is what that character is.
Early 1900s, whatever.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, yeah. And I think that, you know, I know that you guys had something that I guess we talked beforehand, something that you're disappointed about that this movie didn't have at the end.
Yeah, we were gonna. So one of the things, and this does get into more spoiler territory, is, you know, in the end, it's the big, it's the climactic fight where, well, first they're able to open up a doorway back to, you know, out of the quantum realm. And you know it was going to happen. Everybody goes through. Scott's the man. He's got to be like, I'll be last. So everybody goes through. Kang comes in. Scott and Kang are duking it out and fighting. And, you know, we talked about it after the movie, but watching it, we had the same thought, which was, oh my God, this would be great if Scott dies, because he goes out like such a boss hero. He dies. He closes the portal so Kang can't go anywhere either. Oh, this would be such a boss move.
And I'm telling you, I got goosebumps when there, because he's sitting there. Jonathan Majors smashes his head down there, and he's talking about it. And then he's like, well, if we both of us just have to lose.
I don't have to win. We just both have to lose.
Have to lose. Right. And I was like, oh my God, he's going to kill himself, find a way, blow it up, whatever. He's going to sacrifice himself so that the entire group gets away, the entire family makes it out. I was like, my God, what an epic way to go out. And I said, because I just don't know if Paul Rudd's going to be in anymore. And I said, this would be an absolutely great way to go out. Heartfelt. It would make people want to go see this ending 2 and 3 times. It'll be like Top Gun Maverick. We're just going to go back just so we can see that ending and stuff like that. And then, oh no, Hope comes back and saves him. And I was like, no, that's the cliche way of doing it.
Well, I agree. I agree with you in the sense, Dennis, that, you know, for what his arc was, like when the story starts, he seems like he's kind of directionless, like he's past his purpose. He's already saved the world. He's already done everything. And then this would show him that, he had one more, he had a little bit more to give. And also, think about the sales of his book if he saved the world a second time and died doing it, you know. So Cassie, you know, would have been able to really get a lot of the residuals on there. And so I know that you guys had posted that in your earlier video, and I was wondering if we had the same thought, because what I wanted to happen at the end was that, you know, Hope comes through and saves Scott, but then that they both get stuck there, because logically I thought that's what was going to happen. And I wouldn't have expected them to spend forever in there, but also time passes in a weird way. I don't think we would have gotten a movie set there, but, you know, you could have done some kind of tie-in in some way. And then like seconds later, basically Cassie figures out the quantum mechanics version of doing star 69 on your old phone, where you can just call somebody right back. And it's like, oh, let me just reopen the portal. And there we go. So I was like, all right, so that was a lot easier than it seemed in the beginning of the movie, isn't it? But
well, and that's why I kind of didn't think, you know, in the heat of the moment that they would go that route, because she has that device. She already had gone in. She had figured it out. And they were going and, oh, the device is still there. And I'm like, well, if that's the case, she would just go home, plug it back in, whoop, flip it on there, and then there's the signal. And they would wrap it up in an extra credit scene then.
Right. And then my other thought was that the second Ant-Man ends with Scott trapped in the quantum realm. So I figured let's not do the third one that way. One of the things that I want to talk about, I've talked about this movie a few times again on my channel, but one of the things I forgot that I wanted to highlight was the probability storm with all the different versions of him. And, you know, I like that there's the Baskin Robbins version of him. Just that's a very Ant-Man thing that he's there also trying to help. It reminded me that Paul Rudd did this show on Netflix called Living with Myself, where he basically clones himself. And I was just like, that was a great show. I'm like, I've seen him on screen with himself before. And he's very comfortable. But I thought that was actually something that was really cool. And to see like everyone's surprised because every version of him wants to save Cassie, and you don't usually have that. I had somebody suggest to me, what if he had figured out a way to trap Kang in a probability storm with like all these, you know, versions of himself. And I was like, well, I think that they probably felt like they needed to clean, like it looks like he dies, or, you know, this version of Kang can actually be dead at the end of the movie. But, you know, doing more with the probability storm, I thought, you know, it was a part of the movie that I hadn't focused on until right now. So I just wanted to talk about that.
I really enjoyed that part, especially the Baskin Robbins. Hey, why am I even here?
I know.
You know, what am I doing here? But no, that other show that you were talking about where he's in it. Yeah, I mean, that's how we find out Tom Brady, why he's so good.
That's right.
He just gets close.
I forgot about that. That's right. Yeah, exactly. So which one did Giselle get divorced from? Which Tom Brady?
That's right. Number 7.
That show only lasted one season, right?
Yeah, they didn't do another season of it.
I mean, they pick it up, and I like that show.
I
thought it was great.
I thought it was cute and unique. It was fun.
Yeah. It came at a point where I think a second season would have had to go into production, you know, during the pandemic, and I think a lot of decisions were made for different reasons. You know, shows that just didn't happen because the on-set COVID officers and protocols that you would have had just made shows cost too much. I mean, like half-hour shows in particular, it was like, we're not doing a half-hour show because we're going to spend an extra $1 million per episode to go through all of that. So, but I thought that was great. And, you know, we got so much Scott Lang in that one scene that I thought was great. And just in general, I like him. You know, I like Paul Rudd. I like his character, and I was happy to get a chance to spend more time with him, whether we get to see more of him, you know, in the future or not, you know?
Yeah, no, I was. I mean, you know, the first 2 movies were basically, you know, action comedies.
The first one was a thief. It was, you know,
the first one was a heist movie with comedy,
which I thought was unique for Marvel, and I thought they pulled it off well.
But they didn't feel like superhero movies, whereas this one really felt like a good, you know, traditional formulaic Marvel superhero movie. And that is one of the things we were talking about too, is, and I don't know if Marvel can get out of this or not, their movies after, you know, a decade definitely have that formula now. So you're even watching it going, oh yeah, this is the Marvel. It's like How to Draw Comics the Marvel way, except How to Make Movies the Marvel way. Because you'll be watching a movie going, and now it's got to have this and this.
It's true, but you know what? Before they gave James Gunn that role over there, I think the Warner Brothers lot was covered with copies of the book "How to Make Movies the Marvel Way." They just couldn't figure out how to actually
they couldn't figure it out. Yeah. Well, and it's funny talking about. Oh no, it wasn't James Gunn. I was going to bring up Thor.
Sure, Taika Waititi did the last 2,
right? And that I didn't hate it, I didn't love it because I know what you're saying about how, you know, it's like, oh, it's a Thor, you know, it's a Thor story. I see that, but at the same time, him basically pouring beer over his hammer and stuff, I'm just like, oh, come on. You know, like, because I don't mind. You know, the animals, whatever, not sheep. What the hell were they?
The goats.
The goats. I don't mind the goats because that goes all the way back. I mean, I was actually just looking at some Walt Simonson stuff from the 80s the other day, a trade paperback, and the goats were in there. So I didn't mind any of that. Some of the goofiness was it just didn't seem like it fit because all the dark stuff with what's his face there, the bad guy, God Killer.
Right, Christian Bale's.
Christian Bale.
Gore. Was it Gore or I don't know, but it was something like
that. It almost seemed like a different movie.
Yeah. Well, and if you look at Thor 3, Ragnarok, they introduced this humor, like his character evolved. The first one was more of a coming of age, figuring out who yourself, learning life lessons. Dark World, I just kind of ignore that one. That was just
I think Ragnarok was a course correction from Dark World, and they were like, clearly the middle word of that title is what didn't work, the dark. So let's make Thor silly, and once it worked, and especially when he was what I guess they call Bro Thor in Endgame, and it was like. He's kind of become, it's sort of what I was saying about MODOK. He's become kind of a sillier character than he was, which, he's the god of thunder. I think there were always elements of that, but they've really kind of turned into it. And it's like, I don't think you can kind of go back at this point. I think he'll always have to be kind of silly, and it works better with the Guardians, who were silly from the beginning, Ant-Man, who was silly from the beginning, but you just kind of wonder, I'm like, if it works for this to be the only way that we see Thor going forward.
Yeah, I don't know. When he's with the Guardians, it made sense. And like I said, Ragnarok, that to me, it's one of my top 3 movies for just pure fun in the Marvel universe. I just love it. That and the Guardians, it's that sense of humor, and it worked. They just went so over the top in Love and Thunder. I mean, it was just to the point where it was just overdone. I thought I was going to like the movie a lot more than I did, just because there was so much unnecessary comedy with Thor, and they've turned him too much of a joke. And I don't know how you're going to come back from that. And I know Chris Hemsworth kind of has said his displeasure, without saying it so much, about going down that path. I don't know if he'll be back or not.
I think for him to be back, it would be with someone other than Taika Waititi. He just doesn't want to work for him again. And so I think it would. I think that the door's open for that character. We'll see him. I mean, I think that they set up something cool with Hercules. It was a really interesting choice to have Roy Kent from Ted Lasso.
That was so interesting because he's not a big dude.
No,
and luckily it was just a real quick glimpse. Now I've seen just a screen grab of it. And I know I saw an interview with the guy too, and he was like, "Yeah, I had just a month to try and get as big as I could."
Yeah, no, I know, and it's interesting when people do that because for Eternals, Kumail Nanjiani got so jacked.
Oh yeah,
but he barely has his shirt off in it, so it's like, did you need to? I mean, and when you think of Chris Pratt, what he looked like in season 1 of Parks and Rec, and what there's sort of the middle step was when he was in Moneyball, when it was like, oh, he lost some weight, but he's not really in shape, But you could believe that he was Scott Hatterberg, but then he's like, wait, now he's a superhero. It's crazy.
Well, he wanted that role. And I know he went in when he tested out for it, and he's like, look, I want the role. I will lose 50 pounds, and he went and got a trainer and a chef and everything like that. And he worked his butt off. And then when you see him in there, you're like, whoa, wow, he really did.
The best was when he had to still do Parks and Rec when he was working out. And I still remember one of the characters in Parks and Rec was like, wow, you look really good. What have you been doing? And he goes, I just gave up beer.
Yeah. I thought that was a great line. Yeah. Yeah.
He's great. I mean, honestly,
he's great. And it's interesting, to see, but, so I hope we get, sort of an interesting take on Hercules at some point. And, I think there's no reason we can't, I feel like we'll see Thor again, but maybe not in a standalone movie. I mean, I believe that movie ended and said Thor will return, but I think that some of these characters they are saving for big, massive Avengers. Maybe something like, I know that there's a Secret Wars project, but it's like that's such a nebulous concept. Is it like the 80s Secret Wars? Is it like subsequent Secret Wars? Is it going to be Secret Wars 2 where the Beyonder looks like David Hasselhoff? And as my friend pointed out, David Hasselhoff in a Neil Diamond jumpsuit, so maybe we'll get that. So,
oh my God. Yeah, that'd be weird. Let's see. Cammy says the MCU really plays up to the fact that Hemsworth has a godlike body because he's shirtless in each of his films.
Yeah.
If I worked that hard to look like that, I'd be like, yeah, I better not have my shirt on.
There's a reason my wife watches any movie with Marky Mark, because at some point he's either going to be shirtless or he's going to be in his Calvin Kleins.
Yeah, and depending on the quality of the script, you might get both. So,
correct.
So what do you think? We'll end on what do you think about the Guardians of the Galaxy from what you've seen so far?
I think it's going to start off fun like you expect from the Guardians, but just the way that the trailer is structured, the way that James Gunn has alluded to it, I think that we will see characters die for sure, like for real forever. The one that seems to make the most sense is Drax because Dave Bautista has said that he's done. Yeah. And we feel like Chris Pratt is probably done. You don't need to kill Rocket. You don't need to kill Groot. I hope we get lots more Mantis because I thought like the best thing about the Christmas special was Mantis. Just getting to
fantastic.
getting to know her a little bit more. I'm sorry. What'd you say, Dennis?
I thought the Christmas special was great. That was probably my favorite Marvel thing in the last little bit. I was so surprised at how good. We need to see more of her, and we've said that even in the last movie. We've got a taste of it, and I think she's really great. So let's see what she can do.
Yeah, and I think we can tell from the trailer they're going to resolve the fact that this Gamora isn't the Gamora that Peter fell in love with, and I think that there's a lot of stuff that they need to tidy up because I think that some of these characters will see. I think the brand of Guardians of the Galaxy. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but these are not the characters I think of when I thought of Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh no, not at all.
He's going to be in it. I'm like, I remember Rocket Raccoon from his 1985 like 4-issue miniseries. Yeah. But that was like that's who I knew. I don't think I recognized anybody else.
Yondu, Martin.
Oh yeah, Yondu.
Those were the ones that I was thinking of when they announced it. I'm like, oh, that's
like Charlie X and
yeah.
So, I mean, they can give us those Guardians, So, but I think that I think it's going to be fun. The soundtrack's going to be amazing. They've already got that Rainbow song. In the trailer.
I'm so curious. But every time I see the trailer and they're in their space suits and they look like Skittles jumping out of the ship,
yes,
I'm like, what in the hell is that scene all about? That they're dressed in these bright colored suits and they're each wearing a different color. I'm just like, what the hell?
Yeah. No, I know. There's a lot of stuff in there. You're like, why is Peter crying? And there's a lot of stuff. And so there's a lot of questions.
One of the last scenes in the trailer is, damn it, which character is carrying Quill? One of them's carrying Quill.
I don't know if it's Drax, but somebody's carrying.
No, it wasn't Drax. It's one of the. Is it? It's not Gamora. Maybe it's Mantis.
Is it?
Or no, maybe it's Nebula.
Is it Nebula?
Nebula.
Yeah, I think it was Nebula.
Yeah. So and Nebula is an interesting character because really from Endgame on, she's been like a little bit funny, and they've put like a little dash of funny in her a little bit, but she's still just a character with such a horrific backstory, and they allude to that in the trailer. I was just really blown away by that trailer. Look. The trailer for Flash was really well done. It's exciting to see Michael Keaton, but the Guardians trailer is the one that I watched like 3 consecutive commercial breaks during the Super Bowl because I wanted to see it again,
Yes, exactly. And Cammy says it's Groot. It was Groot carrying him.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that makes sense.
And I agree that Flash trailer, Michael Keaton's the upgrade in that bat suit, that just looks awesome.
Yeah.
I'm not as high on Ezra Miller and stuff in this movie, but I will see it just because of I want to see all the Batmans. I want to see
Oh,
what
yeah.
they're going to do with it. And how
Yeah,
they're
we
gonna do
know
that.
for sure that we've got both Affleck and Keaton. So, you know, do we get a cameo from George Clooney? You know, do we get a one of those like they did with Grand Moff Tarkin in Rogue One?
Oh, Adam West?
Do we get Adam West?
Oh my God, that would be amazing if
I
they
don't know.
just.
I don't know if we'll get a Val Kilmer.
I doubt
Yeah.
that.
By the way, my Batman hot take is always that I think for me, Val Kilmer was my favorite Bruce Wayne, not my favorite Batman, but he was the one that you looked at him and you're like, yeah, he kind of looks like he knows how to play the jackass millionaire that people get thrown off the scent. Christian Bale was my least favorite Bruce Wayne, but then we got sparkly vampire Bruce Wayne. So now I have a new least favorite.
Yeah, I like Val. I mean, I really like Ben Affleck as Batman.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
As Bruce, you know, he wasn't. I can see what you're saying about
I liked
Val.
him as
I never
Bruce.
really thought about it. Yeah, I mean, I did
Yeah.
too, but I haven't thought about the old stuff, the Val and the Clooney, all that.
Yeah,
crap
just
in a long time.
Michael Keaton was just not a convincing Bruce Wayne. I liked him as Batman, but you saw him and you're like, I don't know, this guy clearly is new money, you know.
For
just the
me,
way he
Michael
carried himself.
Keaton kind of was the best of both worlds. He was also the original. That's why Jack is the Joker. He's probably going to always be my favorite Joker. I've enjoyed most of the Jokers that have come since, even the Joaquin Phoenix one. I thought that was a very interesting, Joker, and you can do what you want with it. But Jack will always be my favorite.
Yeah. I mean, I'm always going to go with Cesar Romero, a man who decided that I am not shaving my mustache.
That's right.
You just put more clown makeup on my face.
Exactly. That was amazing when they did that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can see that. But before we go, of course, we have to always talk about, let me get the right one up here. Kor-Drath, The Reckoning, everybody. That's right. Kor-Drath. This episode brought to you by Kor-Drath, The Reckoning. That's right. I'm working on it still. I've wrapped up page 39 out of 76 today.
We're over halfway.
Over halfway there. 76 fantastic action-packed barbarian pages. If you like Conan, if you like Game of Thrones, a little bit of Dungeons and Dragons thrown into the mix, you will like Kor-Drath. I don't even think Dennis knows this. Dennis, I actually went and posted the first 8 pages on the campaign page. You can still go to the website, Kor-Drath.com, to see stuff. But I thought, what the hell? I'll put all 8 pages of the preview on the campaign page in one stop. So check it out, guys. It's still funding. You can still reserve your copy today. There's 5 different covers to choose from. There is, of course, a couple different T-shirts you can get. There's a beanie in case your head, like mine, gets cold in the winter and you want to wear a awesome Kor-Drath beanie. So lots of stuff. And of course, say you want to do Kickstarter instead because you have an account at Kickstarter. We got you covered. The Kickstarter campaign launched a little over a week ago. That's going good as well. So it's the exact same campaign, just on Kickstarter. Put the 8 pages up here as well. So guys, when you get a moment, go check it out. And once again, if you've already backed it, thank you so much. I know I say it every show, but it's because of your support that is allowing me and Dennis to bring this book to you and get it into your hands.
Yep.
So,
I'm hard at working on the module right now. We've gone through a lot of gaming faux pas with thanks to Wizards of the Coast and shall we say Hasbro. And I have gotten licensing for a particular one. So I am delving into that. And the module is continuing. So hard at work on that. So you will be able to play the game as well as read the comic book. And they both interact very, very well.
that's right. And
make sure you get the heavy metal T-shirt so that the next time you go and see Iron Maiden, you'll have the perfect shirt to wear that no one else will recognize, and you'll be able to strike up conversation. I love the heavy metal T-shirt.
No, thank you. And 40% Zed, we always appreciate you showing up to watch the show and chime in when you can. We love the different opinions and stuff.
That's what I was going to say. The one thing about our viewers, is We sometimes agree, we sometimes disagree, and we always have great conversations.
Now, Christian, why don't you give a little plug for yourself? Tell them about what you do and stuff.
Sure.
And,
Yeah. And just to piggyback on what Dennis said, I never have any problem with somebody who doesn't like a movie or something that I like. Just explain it. You never have to defend why you didn't like it. Just be able to explain it. Don't, it's like Jim Rome always says, have a take, don't suck. Tell me, don't just be like, yeah, no, it was terrible. Okay, what was terrible about it? I didn't like it. All right, well, then why are we talking about it? But anyway, if you want more of me, where we have done some Ant-Man conversations, and we have one more that'll post next week, you can subscribe to my YouTube channel, Blattcast, Bladdtcast. And if you don't want to look at me, and I don't blame you, there is an audio version. You can just subscribe to Blattcast, Bladdtcast. Next week, I've got a few things going on that I'll promote.
Sure.
I do some shows for a network called Geekscape, and one of the shows that I do there is the Geekscape Book Club, and we're doing the 3 trade paperback volumes of Bitter Root, the Image series.
Oh yeah,
as a tie-in to Black History Month, which I had never read before. The whole idea of the Geekscape Book Club is it's stuff that for whatever reason I've never read before. And I'm making a lot of noise because I was just going to hold up one of the covers, but boy, I'm crinkling so much more.
I was going to say, did you get the Bitter Root? I want to say,
no,
omnibus.
It's funny because the omnibus just came out.
Yeah,
not unbeknownst to me, who I bought the 3 volumes like last week, so I could have one book, but instead I have 3. And I mean, the art's beautiful. It's an interesting story. I really look forward to talking about that. So that's something that you'll be able to find in the Geekscape Network on Monday. And then on my channel, I have a very special episode as part of my 10th anniversary celebration. I did a 75-minute interview with the one and only Dana Carvey. It was something that took a little while to line up because guy's actually pretty busy, but he made time for the Blackcast. So that'll be up on the 2nd. And also for Geekscape, I'm very excited about an interview I'm recording with Kenneth Johnson, who created the miniseries V, not the sequel and the TV series, but the original miniseries. Oh, cool. And that's having its 40th anniversary this year. If anybody wants to feel really old, that V is now 40 years old. So,
I do feel old because I actually have all the Vs at home. The original miniseries, V, the Final Battle. And, it's funny. We were just talking about things that we really want to go back and watch. And I'm like, Mark Singer kind of feeling like it need to pop that out. So that's really
Mark
funny.
Singer was in the original V?
Yeah, he's Mike Donovan, a TV cameraman who ends up leading the Resistance.
I'll be honest, I never really watched it, but I know Mark Singer from Beastman.
Yeah, with Beastmaster.
Beastmaster. I love Beastmaster as a kid.
I did too. Beastmaster 2, not as much, but Beastmaster.
Exactly. The original one was fantastic.
Yeah,
awesome.
Absolutely. So so just follow me, and I'm on Twitter and Instagram at ChristianDMZ, and I always make sure. Thanks, Randy. I don't even need to tell people where to find me because we've got Randy Howell. I need more Randy Howells in my chat to just post up, to promote my stuff. But
you have to make somebody a wrench so they can do that.
That's okay. I've got wrenches to put out there. And also thanks to you guys for having me on. This was a lot of fun, and I can certainly Brian Blevins and I clearly are already becoming fast friends.
Brian. Brian's awesome.
Brian's a great guy, but you know what? Don't ever ask him to draw a dragon. That's all I'm going to say.
What? Oh my God! But
he's going to bust my balls right here. I'm going to bust his.
Well, I mean, he makes a point. I mean, who doesn't know Mark Singer's in V? Who never?
I guess if you didn't watch it, but
probably the same guy who's never watched E.T.
Enough said.
Oh my gosh! Well, make sure you watched the early version of E.T. before they replaced all the guns with walkie-talkies. So
yes.
Ooh, gross! They did that.
Yeah, they went in and removed. So it's like
how does the walkie-talkie fit into a hand that's doing this with the gun?
Yeah, well, it was like a SWAT team the government comes to try to get ET, and they're chasing these kids with guns. but which is fine in 1982. But then somewhere in the 21st century, they're like, well, what if they're only holding walkie-talkies? And oddly enough, they also inserted Greedo shooting first into ET just to make sure that everybody was happy.
Oh, there you go. That's right. Well, you have to do that. So you definitely have to do that. All right, guys.
Anyway, I want to say thank you to both of you guys for having me on.
Yeah, thank you for coming on board.
And you guys were kind enough to be on my show earlier in the month, and good.
We'd
love to do it again sometime. It doesn't even have to be structured around a movie. Just obviously we talked about so much other stuff that wasn't even on topic. That love chatting with you guys, and a delightful chat, especially Brian Blevins, who seems
Brian's a good guy. Look for him in your chat from now on, because I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't show up.
And by the way, Amish Ninja did say Beastmaster was a great movie. Shout out to Tanya Roberts. That was actually going to be my thing. She's also gotta love it.
Tanya Roberts, man.
She was what, Laura Prepon's mom on that 70s show, right? Is that same actress, or am I getting my...
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Although she did not, most of that 90s show, we did watch the new one where all the grandkids come. And,
but I think her character died or something. And
I thought
she died. Yeah. I don't think
I thought Tanya Roberts died.
Oh yeah, that's right. Tanya Roberts herself, actually. Yeah, that was one of those ones where the publicist announces
before she died,
someone has passed away, and then they have to say, "We're sorry, we were mistaken. So and so didn't pass away." And then the next day, okay, for realsies this time, so and so died.
Yeah. That was awful.
Oh. I didn't realize that.
I'm glad we ended on that note.
Yeah,
I know.
I was going to say most everybody did make it back for the show. All the original members, at least for a cameo. So it was a great Membersberry show if you hadn't seen it yet.
Yeah, well, Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis's kids used to go to preschool with my kids in a very like LA sort of turn of events. So I would see them every morning. They were delightful. And I was once in a pie eating contest with Ashton Kutcher, and that's going to go on my tombstone.
I hope you won.
No, neither of us won. So at least he didn't beat me.
Oh, well, that's good.
Yeah.
All right, we will catch you guys next week. We are seeing Cocaine Bear tomorrow night.
Woohoo!
Which means Friday we'll have the review up for you guys, so you can check that out when it goes up.
Spoiler-free review.
Spoiler-free.
So it's so new.
Like and subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell, because that is a pre-recorded review that will pop up on Friday. We'll be back next Wednesday with our buddy Rob Hunter to talk about his book Death Raider on Indiegogo. And until then, everybody have a great rest of your night. And thanks again, Christian. We'll catch everyone later.
Live long and prosper.
Thanks, everyone.
That's right.
Retribution! Oh yeah, we want retribution!